Welcome back. We're flying on a warm summer's evening just to the northeast of San Francisco Bay. We're going to look at stringing a series of navigation features together to form a basic route towards the city. We'll start off by following the Highway 80 towards Vacaville, which is just up ahead. We're going to start to introduce the importance of accurate flying in order to ensure reliable navigation. First, please make sure that we start off at precisely 3,000 feet, as we're going to look at accurate altitude holding. We're going to fly underneath some of the controlled airspace that surrounds San Francisco International. This allows us to navigate and make turns as we wish without having to deal with ATC and other traffic at this busy international airport. When flying beneath airspace, we have to maintain accurate altitude control. If we get sloppy and accidentally climb up into the floor of the airspace above us, inadvertently we would pose a safety risk to jetliner traffic, and it would land us in a lot of trouble. This is why I'd like you to maintain 3,000 feet as accurately as possible, so that you get into the habit of flying with precision, as this will be an important aspect of navigation. Keep us at 3,000 feet and fly us to the far side of Vacaville, where the highway leaves the city. Please be accurate when maintaining 3,000 feet. Welcome back. We're flying on a warm summer's evening just to the northeast of San Francisco Bay. We're going to look at stringing a series of navigation features together to form a basic route towards the city. We'll start off by following the Highway 80 towards Vacaville, which is just up ahead. We're going to start to introduce the importance of accurate flying in order to ensure reliable navigation. First, please make sure that we start off at precisely 3,000 feet, as we're going to look at accurate altitude holding. We're going to fly underneath some of the controlled airspace that surrounds San Francisco International. This allows us to navigate and make turns as we wish without having to deal with ATC and other traffic at this busy international airport. When flying beneath airspace, we have to maintain accurate altitude control. If we get sloppy and accidentally climb up into the floor of the airspace above us, inadvertently we would pose a safety risk to jetliner traffic, and it would land us in a lot of trouble. This is why I'd like you to maintain 3,000 feet as accurately as possible, so that you get into the habit of flying with precision, as this will be an important aspect of navigation. Keep us at 3,000 feet and fly us to the far side of Vacaville, where the highway leaves the city. Looking to the left, we can see the large city of Fairfield. Make a left turn to head for the southwest corner of the city, again following Highway 80. Following the highway keeps us clear of the military airspace to our left, which surrounds Travis Air Force Base. We know this by looking at the route map, which we will have prepared in advance. Choosing reliable features helps us stay clear of any airspace conflicts, but be mindful of other aircraft doing the same thing. Keeping a good lookout for traffic is an important part of VFR navigation. We are not under the supervision of ATC, so seeing and avoiding other aeroplanes is entirely our responsibility. We can see the large area feature of Fairfield from a good distance, which we will focus down to a point feature by an industrial region at the other side of town, which is where we're heading now. We're not going directly over the town centre, as we always want to have the possibility to be able to glide to a safe landing spot in the event of an engine failure. Staying to the edge of town allows us to keep our options open. Take us to the edge of town, where you'll see the industrial warehouses and some wind turbines. Our next waypoint is going to be the Benicia Martinez Bridge, just off to our left. Make a left turn here to point us towards the bridge. As you can see, this is a pretty basic form of visual navigation. We simply steer towards a waypoint that we can see, and once we arrive there, steer to the next waypoint, like stepping stones. This method is simple and easy to follow, but doesn't have very good accuracy, making it most suited to local flying areas that you're all familiar with. It is also unlikely to be the most direct route to your destination, as we're limited by having to choose waypoints which are within view. This is a good time to talk about altitudes. There are two main ways that we refer to how high we are flying: altitude and height. Most of the time we reference our altitude, which is our vertical distance above mean sea level, AMSL. Our height is our vertical distance above ground level, AGL, which becomes more relevant when flying near high terrain. Just before we reach the bridge, we'll be entering what is called a transponder mandatory zone, TMZ, which means we have to have a transponder in order to fly in that area. The transponder can be seen at the bottom of our radio stack and works by broadcasting some basic information about us, such as our altitude and the code that we have set our transponder to, known as our squawk. We have a squawk of 1200 set, which is the designated squawk for flying under Visual Flight Rules, VFR, known as the conspicuity code. ATC can see our position on radar, to which our transponder adds altitude information and our squawk code, so to give the controller more information about us. This type of transponder is known as Mode C. More advanced transponders, known as Mode S, can provide much more data, such as our aircraft type, speed, and autopilot settings. They can even communicate with other aircraft's transponders in order to avoid collisions. Our more simple Mode C system fitted to our Cessna 152 is more than enough for our purposes and allows us to enter the TMZ surrounding San Francisco. We're just going to aim for the northern ends of the bridges, as the other side of the water is quite close to the edge of the airspace surrounding Buchanan Field Airport, which we need to avoid. There are actually 3 bridges here, 2 for road and 1 for rail, allowing traffic to cross the Carquinez Strait. Great. Now make a right turn towards another set of bridges, the Carquinez Bridge. The pair of bridges coming up are an example of old and new. One is a cantilever type bridge and the other a more modern suspension bridge. bridge. Built to cope with increased traffic volume, the suspension bridge carries southbound traffic and is better suited to seismic activity, as the suspended roadway allows some sway. Large bridges like these make great point features as they are easy to spot, contrast well with the water, and are often of unique design. Some can be very tall, stretching hundreds of feet into the air, so do take this into account when planning altitudes. We also have the San Francisco Bay ahead of us. This entire bay area took a long time to become developed, as explorers repeatedly missed the narrow and recessed entrance, now known as the Golden Gate. To our left we can now see our next stepping stone, Point San Pablo, where the land juts out from Richmond, the second strip of land. Turn us to the left and take us to Point San Pablo. You've been maintaining 3,000 feet for quite a while now. We're going to dip just a little lower, which will keep us clear of the main controlled airspace for San Francisco, which will be coming up shortly and stretches from 3,000 feet upwards. In order to remain below the base of this airspace, we'll make a small descent to 2,800 feet, which will give us a couple of hundred feet altitude as a safety margin. Alright, this altitude will keep us clear of the controlled airspace, which begins just beyond Point San Pablo. Now please keep us at 2,800 feet as accurately as possible. I'm now going to add a second dimension to your manual handling by asking you to maintain not only your altitude, but also a specific speed of 100 knots. Speed control will be important as we progress to longer route legs, which are based on accurate timings. Please set us up at 100 knots whilst maintaining 2,800 feet. 100 knots is a comfortable cruising speed for the Cessna 152 and will make for easy time calculations in later lessons. Maintain both 2,800 feet and 100 knots all the way to Point San Pablo. This area is full of great navigation features, with coastline, highways, cities and bridges. On a good weather day like this, it has everything we need to find our way. Next up is a really unique location. Make a left turn and point us towards our next waypoint, Alcatraz. Just crossing the nose now, across the San Francisco Bay, is the Golden Gate Bridge, one of the world's most iconic landmarks. Looking dead ahead is the city of San Francisco itself, with Oakland Bay Bridge further left in the windscreen. The larger island ahead of the nose is Angel Island, with Mount Livermore at its centre. Alcatraz is the much smaller island to the left of Angel Island, and is famous for its prison for dangerous criminals, which closed in 1963. The lighthouse there is the oldest on the Pacific coast. As we get nearer, you can get some stunning views of the city and the bay. San Francisco and Oakland airports are not far south from here, so Alcatraz is about as close as we can get to the built-up areas. now take a right here and head straight towards the Golden Gate Bridge. Painted in international orange for visibility in the fog, the Golden Gate Bridge is over a mile in length, making it the world's longest suspension bridge at the time it was completed in 1937. The towers reach up 800 feet and weigh 22,000 tons each, suspending the roadway beneath them, carrying over 100,000 vehicles per day. Fantastic. We've made our way here by using a simple stepping stone method of picking out visible features and hopping from one to the other. This works fine for locations with lots of iconic features such as landmarks, bridges, and major towns and cities. Next we'll look at taking more efficient and direct routes to where we want to go.